fact, I am normal. Okay, I can interact with regular people, men and women, and I talk to them, and I do it every day. Every day I do this. I'm able to speak to people, have conversations, and there's nothing weird about it. I choose to act weird sometimes for comedic purposes. Some, I'm not, who's completely normal? Not everyone's got something a little bit off about them. We pretend, but I'm not like you. I don't spend 24/7 in a shed, in the corner of a shed with one person to talk to, who you then have the audacity to judge. Just remember, I'm your only friend. If we are that, I got to do my podcast. Fucking idiot. Hi Sheddies, it's me, Eddie Stevens. I'm in my shed. The time is 8. No, it isn't. It's 5. Okay, I misread that. Just relax. It's 5:09 p.m. That's my time, by the way. I don't know what your time is, but I'll tell you what time it isn't where you are. 11:36. See? I'm good at that shit. Besides being a mystic, I am a rugby podcaster. If you've never heard this podcast before or seen it, because this is a video podcast for real. This is a vodcast. I tried to do one last week, and Sheddies, if you're listening, which I assume you must be, otherwise it's weird when you say if you're listening on a podcast, because there's no one there to hear it unless they're listening. It doesn't matter. If you are listening and you listened last week, now you may not have, but if you did, you'll know that I promised you, kind of, a YouTube video. I've never done a video podcast before. I've made some videos on my Rugby Ranter Banter channel that no one watches. Except one time where I kissed South Africans' asses, which I'll never do again. So if that's what you came here for, you can fuck off. I've lost my train of thought. I've got ADHD. If you don't know what ADHD is, it's exactly like ADHD, except much sexier. And I apologize for wearing a shirt today. I think I was saying I've made other videos, but they're mostly very unpopular. But last week, I said I was going to make a video podcast, a vodcast of that episode. But also last week, it was implied, wasn't it, that it probably wasn't going to happen, if we're honest. I mean, I started by admitting that it was really, really stupid of me to have 3 different technical contraptions, for want of a better word, operating all at once. I had my laptop there with a microphone connected to it that I was recording with. That microphone didn't pick up any sound. It didn't work. I don't know why, but it didn't. So then I had, because I'm clever, or at least I know my technical limitations, I had my phone recording the audio as well as backup. And that's what I used if you listened to the podcast last week. And then I had my GoPro filming for the video podcast, the vodcast, the vodka cast, fueled by vodka. Now, throughout the podcast, I freaked out about things going wrong. The GoPro kept stopping, didn't it? Do you remember? And in the end, I couldn't use any of it, which was always likely to happen, because basically it came down to issues with my phone. My phone, which I'm recording this with, the not the sound, but the video, and I'll explain why I'm able to do that in a minute. It has reached that point. I think all phones do this. It reached that point where it just can't store anything anymore, and you delete everything on it, which I did. Apps that I wanted, videos, photos, porn, so much porn. I had a backup. Homemade porn, obviously. I don't watch other people's porn. That's weird. And I deleted everything. I deleted the cache, the trash, the stash, the smash. And no matter what I did, it would just, if I tried to upload the video from the GoPro to my phone, which is what you have to do for some reason, you have to upload it from the GoPro to your phone, from your phone to YouTube, right? No matter what I did, it just said insufficient storage space. So eventually I just got a new phone. So that's how I'm able to do this. What I've done is I've deleted pretty much everything on my old phone, and now I'm just using it as a camera, okay? Because fuck the GoPro. I hate GoPros. I'll never use a GoPro again. And then I'm recording the audio with my new phone, But soon I will have the proper microphone and it will be better quality. This is the best I can do right now. If you're a long-term sheddy and you were listening last week, thank you. Welcome back. Check out the video on my YouTube channel just to see what it's like inside my shed. I mean, if you're not looking at this, or even if you are, I can explain. There's some insane artwork behind me. Some of it, all of this I drew. I don't know if you can see that well, but like that is shit, right? That was from one of my children when they were very young. And then there's egg cartons all over this wall. You can't see all of it here. I'm not going to show you because I don't want to. I've got a very delicately balanced setup here with my camera, but it's very impressive on this side. And then there's some real, there's also some real sound insulation like this stuff here. And other stuff. There's a keyboard over here, a piano, an electric piano, which I used to do the intro on. Do you remember that? Things have gotten very different at Rugby Ranter Banter. I used to have a little song that I would do at the beginning. I don't know why. I'm not even very good at playing piano. I have the voice of an angel and the body of a demon. But I just stopped doing that because it was pointless. And I used to have an intro and outro song by the band Shed 7. You remember the 90s Britpop band Shed 7, and they're still around, they're still great. They gave me permission to use their music in the intro and the outro. And by they gave it to me, I mean, I asked someone on their TikTok account, Twitter, years ago, when I first started this podcast, if they'd sue me up the arse if I used their music, and whoever it was said, nah, mate, go for it. So I took that as legal permission. And then I had a bunch of my episodes taken down and copyright infringements. And I realized it's probably the record label I'd need to get permission from. And they're never going to give that to me. So I don't do that anymore. There is no Shed 7 intro or outro. But one day I'll get it back again, I think. As soon as rugby becomes mainstream and huge and I become basically the Joe Rogan of rugby. Fucking Jesus, that's pathetic of me. Hang on. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Joe Rogan, but I'm not going to get... Sorry, I'm just drinking some tea. Hot tea, which is unusual for me because I usually drink coffee. I'm Americanized, but not that Americanized, and I'll tell you why. America is obsessed with certain things. I have lived here for 25, 26 years now. Grew up in England, grew up in Essex for about 20 years. Spent all my formative years there. That's what fucked me up. And then I came over here and things got weird for a couple decades. The biggest issues I have with America, and it's becoming increasingly bothersome to me, they are obsessed with certain things. One thing they're obsessed with is religion. Everything is about religion here, and it's very frustrating. I saw a video the other day. You know how we're like in England? So I don't know if you're in England, or maybe not, wherever you live. If you're outside of the US, I imagine you have a similar situation. When I grew up in England, it was unheard of that you would go to a friend's house and they would want to say grace or pray, before dinner. Like, that's unheard of. And if someone was religious, like they were openly religious, you didn't judge them harshly. You weren't like, ugh, don't hang out with him. But you would think, oh, he's a weirdo. It was a weird thing. Here, not only is that completely normal, but they'll say insane shit like, they'll vote for someone because they think they're sent from God. They actually think that. And I saw a video the other day with a politician's wife. Maybe it wasn't, but it was a billionaire's wife. Somebody important, right? Someone in power. And she was acting really weird on camera. And she was clearly on drugs. And if she wasn't on drugs, she was just mentally very unwell. But I read through the comments, and sure enough, every single one was saying, she's possessed. It's the devil. Satan is inside of her. I've been telling you people, the demons got her. The demons run this country and you're all sinners and blah, blah. And it's driving me fucking mental. God, I was going to say something else about that. It's gone. But that's one thing that they're obsessed with here, and it really bothers me. And the other thing is race. They're obsessed with race here. Racism constantly is an issue, and I can understand why. But I had a really interesting experience. Years ago, I used to volunteer at my children's school, their elementary school. So I'd be in there with all the little kids. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've said this before. the more you try it. You know, I'm not going to go down that road. Long-term sheddies will already know what I was starting to talk about there, and I'm not going to talk about it now. Just drop it, let it go. I was there as a volunteer, legally permitted to be there, and I would like have the kids read for me, you know, and one day I just occasionally I would just sort of sit in on class. It was bloody boring, to be honest with you. And I like little kids, but I did feel like I didn't really need to be there. I don't know why I did it. This is with my first son, where I was really trying with my kids. Now I just I don't know where my kids are now. They're on the streets selling crack or something for a bit of cash, not stash. But one time, speaking of the race thing, so it's America, right? And New Mexico, it's not bad. It's mostly whites and Hispanics, but there are some black people. Okay, now in the classroom, the teacher did that classic thing that I didn't think they did anymore, where they try and teach about racism, I guess, and they separate you according to eye color. And she was starting to do it. She's like, everyone with blue eyes, go over here. All the people with dirty brown eyes, she said, that was weird, go over there. And I stopped her. I was like, well, surely it would make more sense here with the diversity to just separate them by race. I mean, that's going to give the best example of how racism works. And then I looked around the classroom and I went, look, they've already done it. This is perfect. You got all the whites are over here, the Hispanics, they mix a little bit, the blacks are over there, you know. And there's one Jew. He was either a Jew or autistic, and that is not an insult to Jews or people with autism. That is just a fact. I think he was Jewish and autistic. It's fine. Anyway, I said, just keep them, put them into, keep the whites and the blacks and the Hispanics. And then I realized they've already done it. They've already segregated themselves. So I just asked them, do you all hate each other? And they said, yes. I said, great. They get it. They get racism. Well done. Everyone gets an A and a star. You get a star. You get a star. Jewish kid, you don't get a star. Don't cry. You don't want the star. Trust me. We're not going to talk about anything except rugby from here on out. This is a weird intro. When it's just audio, it feels more normal to be rambling about that sort of stuff. But I have a feeling that this being on video is going to make it weird. Not in a good way. But that's the way it is. I'm not going to censor this. I'm not going to change anything about this. This is my rugby podcast, which is incredibly popular. It has, oh, Christ, tens of people listening every week. And I just want to bump up these video views to, you know, more than 5 people who have already listened to the podcast and are just trying to help me out by... They don't even like it, actually. I see the views. There's more views than likes. Just like it, you twat. But anyway, this is, if you've never listened to Rugby Ranter Banter, the clue is in the name. I haven't talked about rugby yet, but this is a rugby podcast, and it was the Champions Cup this weekend, so there's going to be a lot of rugby chat. I got all sorts of notes, and I think it'll be fun. And I'm realizing right now that I don't remember what episode this is, which is also something that I tend to do each week. But I'm sneakily looking for it, and I've found it, and I now know that it's Rugby Ranter Banter, episode 271. Let's go.
I say the same thing.
Yes, well,
Or
it's not gonna be like that, it's not.
Oh, crikey. There is a completely different vibe to doing this podcast with a camera on me. It's annoying me, if I'm honest. What I'm going to do now is I've got to adjust my camera a bit. I don't know why it's not quite at the angle I wanted it at. You know, it's not going to be. I'm going to pretty much ignore the video now because it's making me look. No, it's not at the right angle. I've got to fix it. I need it lower. Okay, that's a bit better, I think. Anyway, now I'm not going to look at it at all, except every now and then to glance at my shitty moustache that I've started growing. My facial hair was much better last week. I had more of a beard. I don't know what I'm trying this week. See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm over analyzing myself in this video. I rewatched the intro. I didn't rewatch it. I watched the intro. And it's shit. I hope that it's better for you. I hope that I'm just over being too harsh of a judge, but I think it's crap so far. But let's just do the podcast. Like I said, I'm not going to think about the video. I'm not going to think about my weird nose or anything like that. I'm just going to talk rugby. And I promised you I had a lot to talk about. First of all, why is the Champions Cup seemingly so unpopular? Like, people don't seem to be remotely excited by it this year or last year. It just seems like people don't. I think it's just too much. It's too much rugby. It's an overstimulation. I think I touched on this last week. I had this idea in my head. I'd watch all the English teams play, and I just couldn't do it. It was impossible to fit it all into my busy rock and roll lifestyle. And then also, results get, you don't have you can't just sit there for, all day and all night watching rugby. You have to take breaks. You have to go to work. You have to eat food. You have to make love to your woman or man. And, oh shit, am I recording this? I am. Yeah, you don't have time to just sit around watching it, so you have to go do stuff. You can't be. You inevitably you'll get a result spoiled here or there. I had the Saracens result spoiled, so I didn't watch that. I had the Bristol result spoiled, so I didn't watch that, which is annoying because I really wanted to watch that. But I did see some really good rugby. I enjoyed it a lot. I will say this. I think too much rugby is a problem. I think they could reduce the number of teams and just get cracking quicker. Just reduce the number of teams and make it a quicker tournament. But the other thing they should do is, we're agreed, right, as a society that that advertising works, right? I mean, I'm not insane. We've all agreed that. We've all complained about subliminal manipulation of children with advertising and stuff like that. Why can't they hype up the Champions Cup or the Premiership or any rugby in general, really? Like, I don't have the technical ability to do it, or the money, or any ability whatsoever, to be honest with you, except it's in my head. I can visualize a really exciting, great commercial, an advert that would capture fans' attention, and you just invest in it. Like, rugby doesn't have a lot of money, but what they do have, if they invested in that with a good advertising agency, they would definitely get more views. I just think it's crazy that they don't. And I live in a country where it's like, I almost have to fucking summon a demon to get the power to watch a rugby match here. It's like a nightmare. And I watch it on Flow Sports, and Flow Sports is bloody terrible. It's an app. But anyway, I watched a few games. What did I watch? I watched Leicester versus Leinster. I watched Clermont versus Sale. I watched Munster versus Gloucester, or at least half of that. I watched Harlequins versus Bayonne. And I watched Northampton. I watched Northampton versus the Bulls. That's quite a lot of bloody rugby, actually, isn't it? So let's talk about those things. But before I do, here's a word from my sponsor. Just joking, I don't have one. I used to pretend to have one, and I don't know why. One time, Liquid IV, if you've ever heard of that product, it's like a electrolytes supplement company, contacted me via email and said it was interested in sponsoring my podcast for some reason. And then they asked for like all these stats, and I said, I don't know what any of those things are. This is annoying, isn't it? The light from my phone is reflecting on my glasses. I'm glad I looked at this now. Is it distracting? I bet it is. Let me, no, that's not helping, is it? You know what? Deal with it. Shit. Oh, fuck my balls. All right, it's just going to be there, I think. Maybe if I go over here. No, there is no escaping it. Oh, that's really annoying to me. What if I sit further back? This is shit if you're listening. It's almost as bad if you're watching. Okay, there's going to be a reflection on my glasses. What was I saying? Oh yeah, Liquid IV. They asked for all these statistics to do with my podcast, and I said I don't know what any of those things are. I don't know how to find them, and they never got back to me. I was going to say, there's a couple of notes I made before any of the Champions Cup rugby, so I'm going to talk about those things. The first one is titled Problem Positions. One thing, I complain a lot about rugby in England, but one thing I have to give them credit for is at least the RFU. Is it the RFU? Is it the Premiership? It's probably a collaboration. They are quick to rectify when there is a problem position. Like, do you remember, it was not that long ago that our front row was a disaster, that our scrums were a disaster. Now, don't get me wrong, they seem to be at their worst in World Cup knockout stages, mostly against South Africa. But in general, there was a period for a while where it just seemed like our scrum would let us down in key matches. And they've been really good recently. And the English clubs have been good recently with their scrums for the most part. So there's that. And now what made me think of this is Yancey what's his name? Van Rensburg. I can't think of his first name for some stupid reason, but the Bristol centre, who is South African. For years, a lot of people, myself included, and I'm not a big fan of doing this, but for years, centre was such a problem for us. We couldn't seem to crack it. I did say Ollie Lawrence is the answer, and he is, but you need more than just one player there. So Van Rensburg was this guy that was like, oh God, if he could come into the England team, it would just solve that problem. And then it sounded like he wasn't going to be able to because of, what do you call it? Christ, hang on a second. Eligibility requirements, sorry, because he played for the Springboks under 20s or something. And now they're saying he's going to be able to play in a year or something. But the interesting thing is, like, do we need him now? Because we went from going, well, Ollie Lawrence is great. Some people don't seem to think he's, I don't know why anyone would doubt him, but some people seem to doubt him. And then it was like Henry Slade getting wheeled out constantly. Fraser Dingwall came in. It started to look a little bit better, but is he big enough? You were never really sure. There was Seb Atkinson. Now, all of a sudden, I don't think we're going to need Van Rensburg because Ollie Lawrence is very much the man. I know it was just one match, but Max Ajomo came in and was incredible. And then you do have Fraser Dingwall just getting better and better and better. Henry Slade is still thereabouts. Tommy Freeman has been brought into outside centre, and that is an option. But generally, I just see the future as Lawrence and Ajomo. And if either of them are, I mean, there's a possibility that Van Rensburg could end up being valuable. But then there's all this young talent too. You got, Marcy White. Who else? I already said Tommy Freeman's an option. Oh, Luke Northmore. He's been looking really good now that he's fit again. I love Luke Northmore. Seb Atkinson I mentioned. Actually, even as I'm saying this, I think Van Rensburg probably would be third choice. If you were just going for like ability, I'd think Lawrence and Ajomo makes sense as an England starting pair since they are together at club level. And yes, I know that Max Ajomo doesn't generally start that often. It's usually Ollie Lawrence. Well, they seem to mix him up a lot, but Redpath is obviously in there too. But he's a very good player that could have been an England player. It just makes sense to me. And Max Ajomo did everything right on when he got his chance for England. So it would be those two. A year from now, things could be very different, But my point is, it wasn't long ago that the scrum was a huge problem, and that seems to have been fixed. And it was very recently that centre was our problem position, and now it's looking pretty healthy. The only other thing I have a note on that has not to do with Champions Cup rugby is I heard that Thomas Williams, who I say, and I mean this, is the best scrum half in the world, which is incredible. When you look at the state of Welsh rugby, they have, and yeah, I know what you're thinking. Oh, Antoine Dupont. I just don't include him because he's either injured or unavailable or on another level, and I just don't want to. And then I do worry sometimes. Like I haven't seen that much of him, so maybe I am underrating him. Sometimes I feel like, I don't know. I think I'm not going to say it. For me, Thomas Williams is the best scrum half in the world. All things considered. And there is a rumor. Is it a rumor or is it confirmed that Thomas Williams and George Martin are going to Saracens? If that's true, it is huge because their packs are already formidable. To put George Martin in there just takes it to another level. And then the one key position they've been sort of missing world-class talent is at Saracens is scrum half. They've had Van Zale, who's like okay. Who else have they had? They got some up and coming talent in Bracken. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody, but Thomas Williams at Saracens. If you put Thomas Williams in that Saracens team, that Saracens squad this year, I say they win the Prem. I just think he's that good. Anyway, moving on to the Champions Cup, where England were very well represented, or rather the Prem was very, very well represented. I meant to bring up, let me see if I can quickly bring up the Champions Cup results, because I want to see how many English teams won. And I know that, here we go. See, this is another reason, I should have said this earlier, another reason I think people don't get excited about the Champions Cup is so many teams put out their like third team, their bin juice, their under 20s, whatever. A lot of these teams, especially French teams, aren't putting out their best teams. And I don't know enough about these teams to know whether they're doing that. But that does ruin it a little bit. That's why I'd like it to be smaller and shorter so that every game really counts, where you can't get away with resting players. But let's see. Oh, that was last week's. Here we go. So we need week 2. So Leicester narrowly lost to Leinster, and I watched that game. I'll get into that later, but that's a loss. Sale beat Clermont pretty handily. That's 1 from 2. Whoa, Saracens lost to Sharks, and it looks fairly close. That's 1 from 3. Gloucester lost to Munster. That's 1 from 4. I thought we did really well. I'm really confused. Okay, Harlequin spanked Bayonne. That's 2 from 4. Sorry. Is that right? I've been saying this all wrong, haven't I? Leicester, let me do this again. Leicester lost 0-1. Sale won 1-1. Saracens lost 1-2. Gloucester lost 1-3. Quins won 2-3. Northampton won easily 3-3. Bath lost 3-4. Bristol won easily 4. So it's dead even again. 4-4. We won 4, lost 4. I was expecting to say that the Prem was kind of showing everybody that actually it's a really good competition because we have the best clubs. But not only would that not really be proven by any results, because as I already said, I don't know how good the teams they were playing were, but also the results were not good anyway. So that was stupid. But the games I watched, Leicester versus Leinster, here are my notes for what it's worth. Freddie Stewart, there was a moment early on where Freddie Stewart hit someone in the head, and the crowd were upset and acting like he should have been red carded or something. Here's the thing. Freddie Stewart could not have gotten any lower, but he did fucking decapitate the guy. It's completely fine. It wasn't even a penalty, and it shouldn't have been. Or maybe it was. I can't remember. I think it was just ignored because he was so bloody low. But he did absolutely wreck that guy. It was hilarious because he was fine, I think. I started like waxing lyrical about how Leinster are on another level. Early in the game, I saw it felt like Leinster had more players on the pitch than Leicester. They just seemed to always have players in support, running at angles, offloads constantly, And it felt like there was no way Leicester were going to be able to hang in there. It just, Leinster looked amazing. And I couldn't, and watching it, they make it look so simple. I was like, what are they doing? Are they just faster and better? Like, do they have better skills? Because it looks really simple, but I suppose it can't be. Otherwise, all the teams would do it, unless the Leinster players are just physically better. I don't know. It just looks so simple. They just always seem to have numbers. But then, as I said, the match completely changed, and Leicester were very much in it. James Lowe was being a fucking stupid twat as usual. There was a bit where he like jumped into. Let's see. I'm gonna check my note. Yeah, there's James Lowe. He had the ball and then he dropped it, and it kind of bounced, and he jumped to regather it. And this was all very quickly, almost in one motion, where it's like he had it, then he didn't have it. And Adam Radwan was already committed to the tackle and kind of hits him in the air a little bit, but it was very much accidental. And he definitely wasn't hurt. And he went absolutely mental. I didn't even think it should have been a penalty. I don't know what he could have done about it. Oh, and here's the thing. I've been lately complaining about laws that I feel like don't make sense, or they're ignored a lot of the time. Because another clear law that is often missed, in the 18th minute, let's see, I'm reading my notes. Someone did a lovely little chip into the Leinster 22. Okay, I wish I knew who did that. So it says, lovely little chip into Leinster 22 leads to a knock-on, and Leinster player jumps on it from an offside position. So when this happened, and it was the first game I saw of the week, I think this was the first game of the weekend, so that definitely happened. Someone knocked it on, one of their players jumped on it, and the ref just played on. They missed it. I felt like that had happened a bunch of times, and it seems to be ignored a lot of the time. But then I saw at least once or twice in later games people penalised for that. So I think that does get penalised more often than not. I think there might be another law that doesn't make sense to me that will come up, or another law that I feel like gets ignored a lot that's going to come up soon. Radwan's try was fantastic in the 21st minute. Because it showed two things. It showed his electric pace, which he has, but we know he has that. But also it was great composure and skill, because the ball never sat up for him. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the ball was loose in his 22, I think, and then he hacked it and chased it. And then he had to kick it a couple of times, I think. And it was bobbling awkwardly, and he was doing all that whilst maintaining pace to score in the corner. It was an excellent try. Adam Radwan, I mean, Christ, we have so much strength and depth on the wings. England does. Oh, God, excuse me. Let's see. I talked about James Lowe earlier. If you're a Leinster fan or Irish, or if you watch a lot of Leinster, is he not in great form? Because he wasn't particularly good for the Lions when we watched him. I haven't seen a lot of James Lowe. When I do see him, and I remember in the past thinking, begrudgingly admitting that he was good, but for the last couple of seasons, every time I've seen him play, I've been kind of underwhelmed. Are those just random games where he's not at his best, or is he actually performing subpar recently? Let me know. I forgot to mention Hassel Collins. He didn't want to be outdone and scored a great footballing try himself. He did a lovely little kick to score. Another good English winger, although I wouldn't put him as high as Adam Radwan. And yet for the absolutely abysmal England A team, or the England Saxons, are they called the Saxons again? I can't remember. I think they are. They picked Hassel Collins ahead of Radwan. That doesn't mean anything, though. My next note here was Leicester scrum has been good. Does Nicky Smith ever have a bad game? And Whiteley, who used to play for Saracens, didn't he? Scrum half. He box kicked pretty well. Speaking of scrum halves, I find Gibson Park just as annoying as James Lowe. I find them both annoying. And I feel like Gibson Park, no one agrees with me on this. Don't worry. You won't agree. No one agrees. I don't think Gibson Park is bad, but I think he's overrated. I think you put Alex Mitchell, as well as a lot of other international scrum halves behind that Leinster pack, and they'll look pretty damn good. And with those backs. Now, I made a note of this. Joe Hayes is one of, if not the, most improved players in the England squad. There was a time where, when we, again, this goes hand in hand with the scrums used to be a problem. Joe Hayes was kind of like a guy where it's like, God, really? Is that who's our next in line? What, we don't have anyone better? And we were picking like a fucking 80-year-old Dan Cole to play. And now Joe Hayes, every time I see him, he's great. And he looks up for it and confident. He's a good player. He's playing really well. But the biggest difference between I think the reason Leinster won is if you compared the benches, Leicester would lose internationals. They'd have to take internationals off and bring on kids, versus Leinster, they brought on the British and Irish Lions captain. It was a big difference on the bench, and that's what told in the end. I don't think I wrote down the score, did I? I meant to. But Leicester played well, considering they had a lot of injuries, and that's a good team. No shame in that. Clermont versus Sale. This is what can happen when Sale do click. Now, again, I understand that this Clermont team wasn't the best team they have available. All I know is at the end, when they won, Alex Sanderson was very, very pleased. Said they've never beaten them before, and it was definitely acting like it was a big deal. What is that? Does that just say how incredible Clermont are? Is there? I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Clermont. Does that mean that they are? If they had their full strength team, they're on another insane level. I don't know, but I hate this. I wish you just had to play. I mean, obviously you have to rest players, but I wish teams couldn't rest almost their entire team for one game. I don't like it. What is it with French coaches and silly glasses? Because Clermont had that big fat, and it is an insult, but not fat shaming him, but he happens to be fat. Big fat coach with ludicrous glasses, and the French head coach, whose fucking name I can't think of right now, even though I know it really well, has those absurd comical glasses that he wears. He says he wears them because he breaks his glasses all the time. Yeah, just break them and get new ones, because you look like an idiot in those goggles. They look terrible. And don't make fun of my glasses. These are awesome. These are my serial killer glasses. My, who is it? Who's the Dahmer, Jeffrey Dahmer glasses? And he was a ladies' man, wasn't he? I hope he was. Otherwise, did he kill women or men or both? It doesn't matter. These are cool glasses, all right? Joe Bedlow. Tackling monster, I wrote. Never seen him before. Is he Sam's brother? Is he Sam Bedlow's brother? Is it Sam Bedlow? Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you even watch rugby? Oh. Yeah, I made a note here saying that Sale are very close to being the complete package and a really good team. I'm just not sure they're ever going to have the psychological edge to do it. And then I said they're definitely better with George Ford because he doesn't miss kicks from in front of the posts, which Rob Dupree did. Yeah. I made another note here that says, regarding Sale, they have got some absolute superstars. They got the Curry twins, Jabulu, Rafi Quirk, who I'll get into, Ford, Aaron Reed, because he soars through the... Aaron Speed Reed, who was... I'll get into him as well in a minute. And Joe Carpenter, who wasn't playing. If anything, maybe they could do with a world-class winger, and I think Elliot Daly is rumoured to be going to Sale. Who else? Nicky Smith, I think, is rumoured to be going to Sale, which would be amazing. Well, is he a loose head or a tight head? He's a loose head, isn't he? Don't know if they need that or not. They could possibly do with a world-class lock. Although, no, I wrote that, but I don't agree with that because I thought Ben Bamber is just getting better and better. And the guy next to him, is it Barrow, who's 6'9", was amazing. 2 big bloody locks playing really well. Let's see, what else? Maybe they could do with a world-class centre, although they have some exciting prospects in Massey White, who I think is injured now. Maybe Bedler will be good. Marius Lowe. I don't know a lot about him. I should have researched him, but he actually looked really good in this game. Maybe he is the answer. Ben Bamber got man of the match, I just saw, and I was actually impressed with his interview afterwards, his post-game man of the match interview, player of the match interview. Very well spoken, seems very, very, very bright for a northern lad, and just a joke. And yeah, I guess I'm just saying, Sale, they're right up there, aren't they? But you could still see like every English club, they could lose to anyone except Newcastle next week. Newcastle winning in Europe. Now, yeah, I am telling you, this isn't like, a couple of years ago, everyone would have said, yeah, no shit. But Rafi Quirk is still the man. Rafi Quirk is still amazing. And he is going to be, well, I don't want to use my Scheiders touch. I just really rate Rafi Quirk. And he was really good. This is the best I've seen him play since he's come back from injury. Not just with his breaks. He looks friggin' amazing athletically. Defensively really good, putting in some really big tackles. But also just, in his role as a scrum half. Not all of his kicks were great, but that's always, who cares? That's part of the game. I think there was a lot of wind. But tactically he played well, passed well. He's fucking great. I love him. I love Rafi Quirk. He had a beautiful break that set up the try that will piss Mooney of Tribe Talking podcast off. Jack Vermeulen swatting people out of the way to score in the corner. It was very impressive. But they don't like that Tribe Talking because they think that players instantly get AIDS and become useless after they leave Exeter. I made a note here. For that try, the Clermont 9 should have been sent off for theatrics, totally faking injury as Aaron Reed's head brushed gently against the scrum half's head or his face. And Aaron Reed got a yellow card. Got a yellow card. Mental. That was so stupid. Because, they said there was contact with the head, but, barely. You can't, if you gently touch your head against someone, that's a penalty and a card. No. It was a dominant win in the end. Sale were very pleased, and so they should be. Munster versus Gloucester, I stopped watching at some point, because at first it was great. Arthur Clarke, second row, I think is a future England star. So big, so athletic, and he's captain, so presumably he's got a brain and is inspirational. Just the way he plays the game is inspirational. Here was the other law thing that I wanted to bring up. Laws that get ignored that I want to know, are we refereeing these laws, or have we just given up on them? So I think this is it. Munster player gets hands on the ball. This is the 16th minute. A Munster player got his hands on the ball. Gloucester players drive him off. Penalty to Munster. Now, for me, that's clearing out a ruck. He can compete for the ball. He can get his hands on the ball. But what is the law here? So this isn't really me saying a law is ignored. I want to know what the law is here. I always thought you put your hands on the ball, you want to grab it, and if the opposition players show up as you're grabbing the ball and blast you off and you drop it, that's just counter-rucking. As long as the tackled player on the ground isn't hanging on to it, surely that's just a ruck. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe as soon as your hands are on the ball, the split seconds you are touching the ball, no one can touch you. But I don't think so. Anyway. Oh yeah, this was annoying. I wrote, oh fuck, I forgot Dan Kelly went to Munster and is looking for an Ireland cap. That made me feel sick. seeing him score a try. I forgot that he did that. He scored a try. I went, oh my God, it's Dan Kelly. And then, to be honest with you, Mike Haley as well. The pair of them can piss off. I hate it. I hate it. Like, don't get me wrong. It happens, and England has benefited from it. And I certainly am not complaining when we do. I am biased. But I really don't like English players playing in the Premiership, trying to get in the England squad. Both of those players have been in at least sort of the perimeter of the England squad. They've definitely both played England A rugby. And I'm sure they've been picked in England squads. Maybe Mike Haley hasn't, but he played for England A in South Africa and played really well, I remember. And then at some point he went, I don't think I'm getting picked for England. I'm going to go to Ireland. And Dan Kelly did the same thing, and I hate it. I think it's gross. That being said, I can understand if you're not getting picked, if another nation reaches out to you. And in Dan Kelly's case, I mean, Kelly, is that an Irish name? He looks bloody Irish to me. And I'm pretty sure he played for Ireland under 20, so it's not as bad. But I still don't like it. And I don't want it. I don't want it to continue ever again. By the way, I'm 31 minutes in, and my camera is saying that there's only 34 minutes of video available, meaning there's like 3 minutes left. So, but I've got way more than that left in me. So we'll have to see what happens. I might have to edit this and add another video. See, there's always a fucking problem, isn't there? I also need to do something about the sound quality. I know this is very echoey and crappy sounding. Yeah, at some point, 60-ish minutes, I said the game's slipping away from Gloucester and I'm out. Harlequins versus Bayonne. Absolute domination. Quins could have won by more, to be honest. Marcus Smith showing what he can do. All the Marcus haters will, I don't know what you're going to say. I don't care. Marcus Smith is a great player. Cassius Cleves. England have another potential star on the wing. Fast and powerful, just needs more game time. I think I just started listing at this point the Harlequins players who looked really good. Porter looked really good. Marcus, as I mentioned. Luke Northmore, amazing. Caden Murley. Cassius Cleves, I mentioned. And what an impact by Chandler Cunningham South. Just came on and started wrecking people. That was very impressive. Also, Jack Walker, the hooker, who I've never really rated that much, put in one of the biggest hits of the tournament so far. I didn't know he had that in him. I can feel myself speeding up. I'm trying to get this done. I don't have time before this video ends. Northampton versus Bulls. What an ass kicking that was. Saints were missing a lot of players. By the way, I could hear my dog outside whining and it is getting on my nerves. Let me just see what happens if I stop this video.
Stevens, I like the way you're lined up here at the emergency exit, by the way. This is, every time I do this show, this is just give you an idea of how insane comedians are. All the comics start planning their own suicide if the set goes wrong. We're just gonna like scuba flop our way out the window. But this is better. If you line up like this, I can just throw all of you out there and save myself some humiliation.
Okay, now it's saying I've got 8 minutes and 4 seconds left of video. I don't know why. So anyway, I'll wrap it up in that 8 minutes. So Saints were missing Totoro. Is that his name? Wasn't that a cartoon about a little kid? Was that Totoro? Totoro. Him, Ram, and Tommy Freeman in their back three. Now that's a quality back three right there. But there's still, with all those players unavailable due to bans and injury, Saints can still start a back three of Hendy, Slightholme, and Furbank. That's two high quality back threes. Slightholme was great in this game. Hendy was great in this game. Although a lot of mistakes again. Saints do make a lot of mistakes, but you have to sort of weigh that up against the opportunities they create with the way that they play. Alex Coles, I want to mention. Alex Coles, when he was first brought into the England squad, a lot of people were kind of surprised by that. And I think a lot of people didn't think he was like, I wouldn't say they didn't think he deserved his selection, but they sort of thought, Jesus, is that where we're at? Now it's getting to a point where he's sort of the future of England rugby at second row. Like, he is this perfect second row, back row hybrid player and plays great and scores tries every time he plays. George Furbank. He had a great... I thought... who was man of the match at the end of this game? I can't remember. It was probably bloody Pollock, wasn't it? But for me, it would have been George Furbank. He kicked really well in this game. And my favourite moment was when, speaking of kicking, that Bulls prop went insane and kicked a Saints player. The officials said he was trying to trip him. But, I mean, he kicked at him. It wasn't, like, horrendous, but I don't like getting kicked in the shins. It fucking hurts, and that's what he did. He ran past what's-his-face. I can't remember his bloody name right now. Saints prop. They sort of bumped into each other a tiny bit, and then he became enraged, turned around, kicked at him. George Furbank started on someone, grabbed someone by the scruff of the neck. There's a big fight. Then he told the referee, he's just kicked our player. The referee, who did a great job, by the way, of it, checked it, saw it, he gets carded, throws a tantrum. What a fucking baby. You could tell his roommates were roommates, maybe they are, his teammates were embarrassed. They were trying to get him, like, drag him off the pitch. That guy needs therapy. He's fucking weird. And I can understand if he really believed that someone tried to trip him. But, like, he didn't even fall over. Like, I just don't see that as being... People shove each other and stuff all the time. It's not worth flipping out about. And you don't go and kick them because you're going to get caught. Stupid man. But as I said, great refereeing. Like, she listened. She took the accusation seriously. And then was fair and balanced when they suggested that he was retaliating. She looked into it. Really, really good refereeing. And I'm not just saying that because she's a woman. In the 61st minute, Henry Pollock almost scored what would have been his best ever club try. He took the ball, ran someone over, which you don't see him do that often. Then he fucking handed someone off. And then he started outpacing everyone. And it was just I wouldn't say lucky, a desperate tap tackle made him stumble, trip and fall just agonizingly close to the try line. But it did set up the try for Ollie Slateholm, who had a good game. That would have been such a great try. Oh my God, that was amazing. He is a very good player. I think he's overrated, but he's very good. I think that's it. I think that's the whole podcast. I don't see the point of doing these as vodcasts, but I'm going to keep doing them. The reason I say I don't see any point is I just can't imagine anyone watching over half an hour of this. But maybe you'll listen to it through YouTube rather than whatever podcast thing you have because it's just more convenient somehow. I don't know. Sometimes people do it, don't they? But thanks for listening. It's Rugby Ranter Banter. Follow me on Instagram at Eddie Stevens Massive. But as I keep saying, make sure, because you can message, I have to approve your follow. Tell me why you follow me, because I get a bunch of weird... Generally, if you follow me and you're from England and you don't look like a fake account, I assume it's a Rugby Ranter Banter Sheddy. But if you're not in England, I probably will ignore you. So make sure you let me know why you follow me. Follow me on TikTok at EddieStevens0. Oh, and like and subscribe to this. Goodbye. On YouTube, that is. If you're listening, ignore that last bit. No, go to YouTube and like and subscribe to that. Thank you.